Hello, and welcome to this year's State of the Org webcast. This is something that I've wanted to do since becoming executive director, with the goal of informing those that are not in the national team a little bit about where we're headed, a little bit about where the organization is from a legal standpoint, an overall organizational standpoint, and to give a sense of what new directions are pushing in and have a chance for you to ask questions. So for those of you maybe watching this in the future, welcome, and we hope you enjoy, and certainly we welcome your comments and questions. You can send those to me at atdale@eswusa.org, and we'll get started here. So the state of the org here should start with a map, which is what is ESW? And the kind of brief answer here is that we're an international network of technically minded people working on and learning about sustainability. And the pieces here, right, have evolved over the years, where technically minded people rather than engineers. We have a lot of people that aren't engineers, and that's an excellent piece of our network. The map here has also expanded in the last year or two. You'll notice some new colors here. The purpley bits are where professional chapters are forming. The teal dots, and certainly the blue dot in Colorado, we all of a sudden have chapters in Colorado. And you'll notice up in Vancouver, we've got the University of British Columbia, which has been involved for about a year now as a chapter. So we're seeing growth in chapters in a way that we haven't seen, and we're seeing the national team models finally start to be stable, see the organization come back from where it was about 2006. So we're up to about 32 student chapters, 3 form and professional chapters, and it's safe to define ESW as both the combination of these chapters and then ESW-National, which kind of exists above all of those. And what does ESW-National do then? Well, this is a phrase that we've redefined a little bit as well in the last few years. We exist to connect chapters to other chapters, to connect chapters to mentors and funding when we can. We exist to collect and distribute information. That's a task that is annoying, not sexy, but incredibly important. Both opportunities from external folks as well as projects and best practices on maybe common projects like solar installations or gardening or biofuels. We exist to provide skills and educational programming because there are things that not every chapter has access to resources to teach people. And there are a lot of skills that maybe are hard to access in certain areas or that people just aren't normally have a chance to get exposed to. We identify new partners and sponsors, and hopefully that allows chapters to do more, better, different projects, either with each other or with other organizations. And the newest piece, which came out of our recent planning survey, and is something we've talked about doing for a little while, is to develop an alumni network. We have these chapters at universities. We have a lot of alumni that have now graduated, that are in the workforce, that are doing things, and making sure that we can stay in contact with them, that they can stay in contact with each other, to really build that network of technical professionals around sustainability is really important. So these 5 things are probably where we spend most of our time. Here's the picture of the current national team. There are, at this point, 15 people, and that's a huge jump from where we were 2 years ago. If I was talking to you back in the summer of 2012, we had about 5 people for the 2011-2012 school year. The most recent school year, 2012-2013, that expanded up to 10. So we had twice as many people. Let us do some more stuff, really get our feet under us. But then this year, we're up to 15, and we're still looking for 1 or 2 more. And what this does is it means that we all of a sudden have departments that can focus on specific areas. We have a lot more people, which means a lot more time to focus on new projects, new programs, in ways that we couldn't before because we just didn't have the time to get beyond day-to-day operations. And it means we have a lot more ideas and a lot more people in new places. So when people want to have someone physically from the national team come visit, we're much more likely to have someone nearby. And we also have a much more active advisory board in the last year. We're currently at 5 members, and we have another 1 or 2 that we're looking for, and we're certainly looking for new applications if people want to join the advisory board. These advisory board members, shifting from their role for a few years, they'll be working with us to help develop specific programs where we don't necessarily have the expertise, to help do some internal management, and also in where they have expertise, help some projects with some, or help some chapters with some projects. The goal here is that we will have the advisory board advise us on certain things, but not be running the day-to-day operations. That's a piece that would be more fit for a board of directors. And on that note, we should talk about ESW's legal status. ESW was founded in 2002, so we're over 10 years old at this point. And for about the first 9 years, we were based at the Center for Transformative Action at Cornell, which is an incubator for nonprofits and businesses. And they provided a fiscal umbrella. In the summer of 2011, we moved to a fiscal sponsorship from the University of California, Merced. This was great because it provided a lot of support during a leadership transition as this national team model kind of got off the ground, figured out where it was going. But it really turns out that the needs of a small organization such as us and that of a large university system don't mesh. There's a lot of bureaucratic overhead that doesn't make sense on either side. So I'm really happy to announce that as of 4 weeks ago, we have filed for incorporation, which will make us an independent organization. And that would be followed by filing for 501c3 status, which after 11 years of existence, ESW will finally be an independent nonprofit. This is going to allow pursuit of more sponsors. It's going to allow easier donations. It's going to allow us to have a lot more flexibility in how we act. It will add some paperwork of its own, but we're prepared to deal with that, and we think that the benefits massively outweigh the negatives. And as part of that, we will see a formal board of directors come into existence. I want to next move into 2 pilot programs that we started in this past year that we're going to be continuing. It gives you a taste for some of the bigger things that we have space to do now and where we want to move in terms of having ESW be a larger part of local initiatives. The first is the Lifecycle Assessment Plus Universities Challenge, or LCA plus U. And this is a program that's in partnership with a company called Sustainable Minds, which is a startup in Boston. They have a cloud-based LCA software tool. And LCA is something that, with my background, I think is very important. A lot of my PhD work is based around that. And it's a skill that we see as really important for the next generation of engineers. So what we put together is a challenge for students at different universities to submit a proposal for a system that they want to look at on campus. Maybe it's a project that they're already working on. Maybe it's a system and piece of the university environment. But the goal then is to use this LCA tool from Sustainable Minds to show this is clearly the quantitatively better option in terms of environmental impacts. We had 7 proposals from 6 schools. We had a whole bunch of great results from that. I want to highlight 2 of them here. Now, one of them is from Ohio State, which started looking at this very large engineering building and trying to minimize energy consumption, and had a real discussion around scoping, and ended up looking at a rainwater harvesting system, because it turns out that if you reduce water usage, you can reduce a lot of energy usage as well, to the tune of $100,000. They've been working with the facilities department. They have an optimal set of materials in terms of environmental impacts, and they'll actually be looking to pilot that rainwater harvesting system in the next year. The other example that I want to highlight is the Rochester Institute of Technology, RITs, which looked at takeout containers. There are 17 different dining services facilities around campus. They all use different takeout containers that can range from tinfoil over a plate to styrofoam to biomass-based clamshells, etc. And this is a pretty classic LCA problem. It's something that a lot of schools have tried to do better on, but having a clear, better option using on-campus results, so RIT's results are specific to their campus, has been really cool. And they also suggested a new option, which would be a reclaimed and then reused container after it's washed. And that one turned out to have some of the lowest impacts, even if washing takes a lot of impacts. So their recommendations are under consideration for possible implementation by dining services. And we hope to be able to take that report and generate a way for other schools to localize their results and use this study at their own campuses. And that amplifies the impacts of this single study. We'll also be running this LCA plus U challenge again this year with a little bit of a sooner start on it, so that people have a little bit more time to work. The other program that we started, and it's just now going to be piloted this fall, is the Wicked Problems and Sustainable Engineering Initiative, or WPSE. Now, wicked problem is actually a technical term. It comes out of the social sciences, and these are problems that beyond just being complex, they're unstructured, they're missing data, they're better and worse rather than right or wrong. and they involve a lot of different disciplines and stakeholders, but a lot of the ones in sustainability include engineering in some manner. Now, in my opinion and ESW's opinion, experience with wicked problems is critical for the next generation because these are things that all of our members are going to be facing in their careers, but education in it is currently totally insufficient. There's reasons for this. There's disciplinary siloing, there's institutional barriers, there's lack of local professional expertise. And finally, there's in a lot of ways a need for a community to look at a lot of different aspects simultaneously. So what WPSE proposes is to link a set of upper class special topics classes in probably engineering, but in other areas as well. Link them at a bunch of universities, link them through our national network. The goal here is to provide local team-based experience with these problems, so an interdisciplinary team, good experience there, but provide professional expertise through ESW's network from a variety of disciplines. That'll come in the form of both classwork, lectures, online lectures, as well as some mentorship. And we'll be piloting this topic at this fall at 3 different schools, Georgia Tech, RIT, and the University of Pittsburgh. The goal is to have a nationally shared topic, so we'll be focusing on the roots of air pollution rather than an end-of-pipe issue. And we'll have the schools will be working together, and they'll also be able to present their work at our spring conference, which you'll hear a little bit more about at the end of the presentation. From there, there's 2 programs, and we'll look at some more new programs that will be coming up in the next year. And this stems out of 2 things. The primary one is the National Team Retreat, which happened 2 weeks ago. We had almost all of the national team in Pittsburgh for 2 days of intensive planning and putting together what all the different departments will be working on. And a lot of that is informed by a planning survey that we sent out 2 months ago, which gave us a lot of feedback on what people are interested in, what people maybe aren't quite as interested in, and what topics we should focus on. And I wanted to start by returning to that map and noting that chapter relations, which has always been the core of the national team and relates to chapters, will be focusing on building much stronger connections with chapters, drawing them into the national network. We have 5 people working in chapter relations now as opposed to the 2 that we've had in previous years. So you'll see a lot more, chapters will see a lot more connections with their chapter relations coordinator and a lot more chances to engage with other chapters. You'll also be seeing more chapters. We've highlighted 3 specific areas here where we think we need to grow those regions to have some stability. One of those is the Pacific Northwest. We've got University of British Columbia, but there's a lot of interested people in the Washington and Oregon areas. Colorado, we have 4 or 5 schools that we're actively talking to there. And finally, the Southeast, which is a region kind of centered on Georgia Tech. But there are a lot of schools within that area, and it's an area that we traditionally haven't had a presence in. You'll notice a big concentration up in the Northeast, around Cornell, where we started, a lot spreading out along the Midwest, but we want to get some chapters in these new areas so that we have more of a presence in more areas, as well as just expanding our network, which gives more people more chances to talk and interesting projects to work on. So you'll see a lot more engagement from chapter relations and active outreach to schools. On that note, on chapters note, we are starting professional chapters. This is something that went out in the most recent newsletter, and it's something I'm really excited to see happening. We've had 3 alumni approach us about starting chapters. Those will be based in Albany, Troy, around RPI, Boston, and Houston. These will look similar to some of the student chapters in that they'll be project-based, but they'll also have some additional networking aspects that might appeal more to the professional side of things. These are 3 pilot chapters. We would like to see several more. We'd like to see more in more cities. And to do that, you can email Chris. That's Christopher Vega. He's our outreach director. He'd love to work with you on this. On another note of professionals and professional engagement, we're starting a professional mentorship program. This is also something that people have talked about for a year or 2 now, and we haven't had the bandwidth to implement. The goal here is so that when chapters have projects where they need additional expertise, we can have a set of professionals that are interested in working with chapters. It gives them something to give back to the community, and it builds some connections between both sides. We're looking to start this program with an initial batch of mentors, and if you're interested in being part of that, Rob would love to talk to you, and you can email him at the address shown here. And these slides will be available on our website afterwards, so don't feel like you need to write everything down right now. Shifting a little bit, the development department, now fully formed and has 4 people within it. The professionals, a lot of the professionals that we'll be engaging with are alumni. And I mentioned at the beginning that one of our new roles is to create an alumni network. That was one of the top roles for ESW-National in our survey, tied with connecting chapters to other chapters. With that in mind, in addition to these professional outreach programs, those of you that are alumni, or those of you that will become alumni, will be seeing some alumni-specific content in groups, direct engagement through some interview programs, and those will also obviously be the core of some new professional programs. The development department, in addition to building those resources, will also be reestablishing corporate relationships, particularly as we become an independent organization. This is financial sponsors, which are incredibly key, but also project partners, and people who want to work with us in a lot of different ways. We're looking for different connections to do different things. And it's worth noting that development is in charge of raising money at heart to run the organization. And we're looking to have a diverse set of revenues. We have dues, we're looking for sponsors, we'll be writing grants, and other areas that we can look at. But we are going to, we have donations available. We'd like to see individual donations be part of that set. So don't be surprised if that shows up in your inbox. Shifting again, the projects department and looking at building on LCA plus U and WPSE, where do we go now? What can we add next? Well, the first piece is project templates. There are a lot of standard projects that people want to do. Things like small-scale solar installations, things like energy audits, things like rain gardens, and several more. These are things that there's definitely local pieces and local aspects, but there are some likely costs and expected timeline, maybe some expected management needs and some best practices that we can provide as a nice template for chapters that are interested in doing those. It provides something for new chapters or struggling chapters to work on that they can easily engage with, and there will also be a supportive community for questions because these projects have been done by other chapters. The second piece is a set of summer workshops. This came out of a realization that a lot of our members are engineers in the university sense, and that many of us don't actually know how to build things. So we're partnering with a school called Yestermorrow, which is a design and build school in Vermont, to offer 1 to 2 weeks of a sequence of 2 to 3 day design build classes on sustainability related technologies. Now it's everything from solar system design to composting toilets to all sorts of different natural building materials or basic woodworking. The goal then is to not take over their classes, but to have ESW members take the same classes at the same time, so you can build connections within an ESW community, as well as introduce other folks who might be there to ESW. And so you should be on the lookout for those starting next summer. We've been up to visit Yestermorrow, and it looks like it'll be a great partnership and some great opportunities. I know that many of the members of the national team are excited to take part on this. We'll also be working on some clearer educational pieces and skills training. One of the pieces of feedback that we got from the survey and we've gotten from webinars in the past is that they're somewhat irregular and the topics can vary and interest varies a lot in terms of the quality of the webinars. So we're going to be focusing on a lot of skills. We're going to be starting off the year with a skills webinar series that'll be September through October every 2 weeks, and 4 really key skills for doing good projects. That starts with project scoping, figuring out what a project should be, project management, how to run it, grant writing, maybe to expand the project or take it to the next step, and media outreach to make sure that you know how to tell other people what you're doing. So that'll be an entire series. We've got speakers lined up for that, and you can expect to see an announcement about that in the August newsletter, or even sooner possibly. After that, we want to design skills and educational content based on member interests and job needs. We definitely, from the survey, got an interest in energy, water, resources, and kind of surprising to me, economics. But there's also a real interest in trying to find sustainable design skills that are applicable to today's jobs. So we'll be working with a company called Dayaway Careers, which pairs individuals with specific clean energy jobs, and doing some interviews with our own alumni, with their alumni, to figure out what skills have been useful to professionals, what skills have not been useful, and try to tailor some new content around We're also going to be looking at doing a more combination in-person and streamed webinars. And you'll notice that GoToWebinar now has webcams, which hopefully will make things a little bit more interesting if you can watch someone actually talk. And particularly for someone like me that talks with my hands, this may be of benefit. Finally, on education, we're going to be collecting and collating K through 12 outreach materials for interested chapters and individuals. We've had a lot of different chapters work on K through 12 material. We want to have a database of curricula, of how things worked, activities that people can use if they want to go into local schools and teach the next generation of STEM majors, which is something we'd love to see more of. So those are a very brief overview of programs that we're going to be expanding into. More chapters, better connections there, professional chapters and mentorship, programs around design build, better skills webinars, and project templates. But given that suite of things, we're also going to need to reach out to make sure that all of you know more about what we're doing, have a better chance to engage, and also tell more people who aren't in ESW what we're doing. I wanted to start by noting that we have a whole bunch of new partners that have been gained in the last year. This includes Focus the Nation, that will be doing some small workshops around Campus Sustainability Day this fall, Sustainable Minds, who's our LCA plus U partner, Cogent Computing, which is a group at Coventry University in the UK that does building sensing, and we'll be doing a webinar in late August, and hopefully, and working with some chapters on implementing that building sensing technology. Day Away Careers, we'll be working on job skills and what training needs to happen. IFES, which is an international group on engineering education that will provide a lot of connections to some of the international work in international universities, and Yestermall, which I mentioned for the design build hands-on workshops. We're always looking for new partners as well. I'd like to see this list grow in addition to having more sponsors. So if you are part of an organization or know of organizations that we should work with, we're always looking to consider new opportunities. And beyond that, our communications department, which I haven't mentioned yet, we've been doing newsletters for the last 4 years. They haven't always been regular. We're looking at standardizing that now that we have just a communications role, building on Verena's excellent job last year. We're also looking at expanding the featured content. We've had some chapters featured in the past. We've had some projects recently. We'd like to feature some alumni and members, as well as projects and chapters. But we also need to know who we should feature. We don't have everyone's information all the time. So if you have something you should feature, we'd love to know about it. If you think you're doing something interesting, we'd love to know about it. Similarly, we're going to be telling more people what we're doing. That's press releases, that's an improved social media presence, that's ways that people can see what we're up to, even though we as a national team have historically been very interested in transparency but haven't had the time to do it. But we really want to emphasize that we'd love to feature you, we'd love to talk to you, and we'd love to answer questions that you have. And I want to end on the note of communications and talking with people with our conference schedule. Our ESW-National Conference will be moving to the spring. We did that for a variety of reasons, partly so that people can present work that they've done in the past year to fit with the school year, and also so that schools have a little bit longer to do some fundraising if necessary to get to the conference. The 2014 conference will be hosted by Northwestern. It'll be right outside Chicago. It'll be the second week in April. We hope that everyone will be there. We're also, though, introducing a set of regional conferences. And these are designed to take up that fall slot, make sure people have a chance to engage in the fall, and also give students at non-ESW universities a chance to come and see what ESW is all about without having to make the big trip to a national conference. So we'll be having 2 of these based around where we have concentrations of chapters. One will be at RPI, and that'll be October 11th and 13th. The second will be at the University of Pittsburgh, and that'll be November 1st through 3rd. You'll notice that these are both in the Northeast. We'd like to expand that in the future. Part of the reason why we want to build up regions, and those 3 areas I highlighted before, is so that we can have more regional conferences around the country. And we hope to see more of them in 2014. Moving with all 3 of these conferences, we think the conferences have traditionally highlighted education. They've traditionally focused on ESW members, but we think that they need to blend more of the best practices, more training into them so that people walk away with some new skills, with some new specific abilities or a specific new project idea. We also think that conferences need to be more than just students. There need to be professionals involved with them and faculty, and that means that we need to provide faculty and professionals with a reason to come. And they also need to be more than just ESW members so that more people learn about ESW, but also because we don't have the answers to everything. Learning from other people, having them learn from us is going to make the world a better place faster. And that, if nothing else, is our goal. With that, I want to thank those of you that have attended and thank you for your questions, and I hope that you feel a little bit more informed about where the national organization is going. And I hope that you'll engage with some of the new programs that you've just heard about. None of these things will work, will get off the ground, and we won't be able to do more of them if there isn't engagement in what we do. And it's up to you to make those things happen. We try to design things based on where we see a need, based on your feedback. And it's great to see people engage with us, so we hope we continue to see that. And with that, I bid you all a good afternoon.